Here's a shocking reality check. Chronic illness now affects over 60% of Americans, and childhood diseases are rising at rates that should terrify every parent and policymaker in this country.
Those numbers are staggering, and it makes me wonder why we're not seeing more urgent action from our healthcare system.
Well, that's exactly what caught my attention about this Make America Healthy Again Commission. You know, normally I'm pretty skeptical about government health initiatives, but this one's different. They've got this 100-day deadline to create actual solutions, not just recommendations.
And having Robert F. Kennedy Jr. leading it as health secretary definitely adds an interesting dynamic. He's been pretty outspoken about environmental health risks for years.
That's putting it mildly. The commission's makeup is fascinating too. They've got traditional doctors sitting next to functional medicine practitioners, environmental scientists working alongside nutritionists. It's like they're finally acknowledging we need multiple perspectives to tackle this crisis.
Hmm. What's really catching my attention is how they're approaching childhood health. The statistics are honestly frightening. 1 in 36 kids now has autism spectrum disorder, and that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. And look at the rates of ADHD, severe allergies, and autoimmune conditions in kids. The Commission is actually proposing some pretty radical changes to address this, starting with completely overhauling school wellness programs.
So, what exactly would those changes look like in practice?
Well, they're talking about replacing processed school lunches with locally sourced anti inflammatory options, implementing daily movement programs, and even adding stress management techniques like mindfulness into the curriculum. But here's what's really interesting: they want to start screening kids for potential health issues way earlier than we do now.
That's quite a shift from our current reactive approach to healthcare.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. The Commission is pushing for major changes in how we handle environmental toxins, too. They want stricter regulations on things like BPA, PFS, those forever chemicals we keep hearing about, and certain pesticides that might be linked to developmental issues. Though I imagine that's going to face some serious pushback from various industries.
Oh, you know it will. But here's the thing. When you look at the data showing how these chemicals are showing up in cord blood samples and breast milk, it's hard to argue we shouldn't be taking a closer look.
What about the more controversial aspects, like their stance on vaccine safety monitoring?
That's definitely the hot button issue. The Commission isn't anti vaccine, but they're pushing for more transparency in the approval process and better adverse event reporting systems. It's about building trust through better data and communication.
Well, given RFK Jr.'s history with vaccine related advocacy, I can see why that's generating some heated debate.
Absolutely right. But you know what's interesting? Some of their less controversial recommendations could actually have huge impacts, like their proposal for insurance companies to cover preventive care and nutrition counseling, or creating these community based wellness zones in underserved areas.
Those wellness zones sound intriguing. How would they work?
Think of them as one stop shops for preventive health, nutrition education, fitness programs, stress management, even community gardens. The idea is to make health resources accessible before people get sick, especially in communities that traditionally haven't had great healthcare access.
That could be transformative if they can secure the funding and community buy in.
And that's really the big question mark hanging over this whole thing: funding. These programs sound great, but they'll need serious financial backing. Plus, you've got to convince state health departments, school districts, and local governments to implement these changes.
Though, given the rising costs of treating chronic illness, maybe we can't afford not to try something different.
You know what's wild? The Commission actually crunched those numbers. The current trajectory of chronic illness in America is unsustainable, both in terms of healthcare costs and human suffering. They're estimating that if we don't make major changes now, by 2030, we could see chronic illness rates hit 75% of the adult population.
Those projections are honestly terrifying.
They are. But here's what gives me hope. This commission isn't just another panel of bureaucrats shuffling papers. They've got people who've been in the trenches dealing with these issues, and they're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Even if only half of their recommendations become reality, it could represent the biggest shift in U.S. health policy since the Affordable Care Act.
Exactly. And whether you agree with all their proposals or not, at least they're trying to address the root causes of our health crisis instead of just managing symptoms. That alone makes this worth watching closely.
So, what happens next?
Well, the report should be released later today, and that's when the real work begins. We'll see if this is truly the health revolution they're promising, or just another well intentioned initiative that falls short. But either way, it's clear that business as usual isn't working anymore.
For more details on what to expect in today's commission report, visit theadvocatevoice.org/MAHA. And if you found today's episode informative and helpful, click that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe or follow
Depending on your platform choice.
to be alerted when new episodes drop.